Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into something truly amazing that our bodies can do. We're talking about the ability to build, from scratch, brand new blood vessels. It's like having an emergency construction crew on call 24/7 to create life-saving detours when disaster strikes. So let's get into it and see how this incredible system works. I want you to picture your circulatory system as this huge, sprawling highway network. Now, what happens if there's a total pileup? A complete blockage on a major artery? I mean, that sounds catastrophic, right? But what if your body had its own internal road crew, ready to build a whole new bypass route, basically on the fly? Well, the crazy thing is, it does. Okay, so before we get to the amazing solution, we really need to understand the problem. We've got to take a closer look at that traffic jam itself. What we're talking about are blocked arteries. So this problem has a name. It's called peripheral arterial disease, or PAD for short. This is when the arteries, usually in your legs, get all narrowed and just choke off the blood flow. And in its most severe form, something called critical limb ischemia, the situation is, well, it's dire. We're talking constant pain, sores that just refuse to heal, and a very real risk of tissue death and even amputation. This is the emergency that the body has to respond to. And believe me, it does respond. The body's own emergency protocol, this whole process of creating new blood vessels, is called neovascularization. This is our internal construction teams bringing into action to restore blood flow and literally save our limbs. So how exactly does this internal road crew get the job done? Well, it's not just one simple trick. The body actually has two totally different strategies for building these detours, and they're triggered by different kinds of emergencies. All right, so the road crew has two main plays. First up is arteriogenesis. Think of this as building a major highway bypass. The body takes these small existing side roads and widens them into big, functional arteries to get around that main blockage. And what triggers this? It's all about physical force, the pressure of blood trying to squeeze past the jam. Then you have the second strategy, angiogenesis. This is more like building a bunch of new local streets. It's all about sprouting brand new tiny little capillaries to get oxygen directly to the specific tissues that are starving. This one isn't triggered by physical force, it's triggered by chemical SOS signals from those oxygen-deprived cells. So let's look at arteriogenesis, the highway bypass. It all starts with that physical pressure. The blockage creates a backup, and that increases what scientists call fluid shear stress. It's basically just the friction of blood pushing harder against the vessel walls. This stress acts like a flare, signaling immune cells, especially these things called monocytes, to rush to the scene. These cells then release a whole cocktail of growth factors that tell the vessel wall, hey, remodel, get wider, get thicker, get stronger. And just like that, a tiny little side street transforms into a fully functional highway. Now, angiogenesis works totally differently. It kicks off with a chemical cry for help. Tissues that are being starved of oxygen, a state called ischemia, start pumping out these powerful chemical signals. The most famous one is called VEGF. You can think of these signals like fertilizer. They cause nearby capillaries to just sprout new, tiny branches. These little branches then grow and connect with each other, forming this dense web of new vessels to bring life-saving oxygen exactly where it's needed most. It's a precision rescue mission. Now, this all sounds absolutely incredible, right? A perfect, built-in repair system. But here's the catch. In many patients, especially the ones with severe disease, it's just not enough. So let's dig into why this brilliant system can sometimes completely fail. And this is the critical question, isn't it? If we have this amazing built-in capability, why do people still suffer the absolute worst consequences of PAD? Well, it turns out that the very same things that cause the blockages in the first place are also actively sabotaging the repair crew. And here they are, the saboteurs. Each one of these common risk factors just throws a wrench in the works. Diabetes? It makes those important immune cells sluggish and damages the lining of the vessels. High cholesterol? It's literally toxic to the vessel cells and blocks the growth signals. Smoking? Messes with the very stem cells you need for the repairs. And of course, hypertension and just plain old aging, they create damage and cause a decline in all the key molecules you need for the job. It's basically a multi-front attack on the body's ability to heal itself. So, if the body's own system is being undermined, the next logical step for modern medicine was to try and give it a boost, right? So let's look at how researchers have tried to, essentially, hack the system. The first big idea was, pretty straightforward.
The thinking was, if the system needs growth factors to build new vessels, well, let's just give it more of them. Let's just add more fuel to the fire.
And this led to what we call gene and protein therapy. Scientists identified those key growth factors, like VEG, and they tried just injecting them directly into patients, hoping to kickstart this whole vessel-building process into high gear. But the results were pretty disappointing. As the research bluntly states, these early trials showed very limited benefit. It seemed that just dumping more fuel into a broken system wasn't the answer. The problem, it turned out, was a lot more complex than that. So this led to a big shift in thinking. Okay, if adding more fuel didn't work, what about adding more skilled workers? Instead of just providing the raw materials, what if we could bring in a whole fresh construction crew? And this is the whole idea behind cell-based therapy. The strategy here is to take specialized cells from a patient's own bone marrow or blood, we're talking about the actual building block cells that create new vessels, and then inject them right back into the area where they're needed most. And this approach has been way more successful. Now, it's not a silver bullet, but the research notes that more promising results have been observed. We're seeing real improvements in pain, in ulcer healing, and a bunch of other key measures. Okay, so adding workers is definitely better than just adding fuel, but it's still not a perfect solution. And that has pushed researchers to look even deeper, to ask a much more fundamental question about why the system is failing in the first place. And this brings us right to the cutting edge of the science. The newest thinking is that for the patients with the most severe disease, the body actually has plenty of fuel, and it probably has plenty of workers too. The real problem might just be that the instruction manual itself, the genetic code that's telling everybody what to do, is faulty. Researchers have zeroed in on these amazing things called noncoding RNAs, or ncRNAs. Now, these molecules are like the project managers of our DNA. They don't actually build anything themselves, but they are the ones who tell the other genes when to turn on and when to turn off. They are the master regulators. They can either hit the gas on vessel growth or they can slam on the brakes. So here's the big takeaway. The theory is that in the sickest patients, the body is sending out all the right SOS signals for repair. But these rogue ncRNAs are acting like corrupt project managers. They are actively blocking or scrambling those messages. So the work order is being sent, but they're tearing it up before the construction crew ever even sees it. This discovery just blows the doors open to a fascinating and powerful new frontier. It completely shifts the goal from just adding more parts to the system to figuring out how to actually fix the underlying instructions. And it leaves us with this really provocative final thought. Can we learn to become editors of our own biology and literally rewrite the body's own repair manual to help it heal itself?